Welcome to Jimmy G's Anomaly, the podcast. Today's special guest, Detroit musical legend Muruga Booker. His illustrious musical career spans 64 years, playing with Jim and Jean, George Clinton, Parliament, Funkadelic, the P-Funk All-Stars, and Muruga Cosmic Boogie Band and more. This interview will certainly be interesting and fun, so sit back and enjoy the podcast. And now your host, Jim Lazak. Well, here we are, another edition of Jimmy G's Anomaly, the podcast. We're deeply honored today to have in the studio the Muruga Booker.
God bless you all. It's a real honor for me to be here with you likewise.
Such an honor. So you were born in Detroit, Michigan on, let me guess, December 27th, 1942?
You're really good.
Yeah, that makes you 82 years young.
82 timeless years.
And one of the things that you did, on top of all the other great things that you've done that we're going to get into, is you played the accordion.
Yes, that was my first instrument. I saw my dad play when I was 5 years old in the kitchen. And he had rhinestones on the accordion. Bookvich in rhinestones. It was psychedelic in a sense. And I was dancing the colo with my mother while he was playing. And it put me into ecstasy. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to do music. And a week later, my mother put a pencil in my hand and showed me a stick figure. And right away, I knew somehow that I wanted to be an artist, a musician, a family man, be married, and to know God. And that was at the age of 3.
You are a ordained priest, right? There's your press photo here.
Yes, that's in my studio.
Right here. There's a picture of you.
Yes, that's in our home chapel. I just have a small chapel in the living room. And every Sunday we do the Divine Liturgy, a Thanksgiving prayer and communion. And it's really beautiful because the Spirit is the main thing in our living room.
I looked at your discography on Wikipedia, and it's pretty intense. It starts in the 50s, actually the 60s, right? 1960.
With the Low Rocks, probably. Well, it does say I was born in 42.
Well, tell us about Jim and Jean.
I was playing at the Chessmate. I was the house band. It was a wonderful gig. And I was also the house drummer, and I used to do drum solos opposite other people's acts when my band wasn't playing. And I did that from late 64 all the way to maybe 71 or 2. And I was playing there, and Jim and Jean with Harvey Brooks were playing, and I sat in with them. And I was with the Spike Drivers also. It was the first folk rock group in Detroit. So Jim and Jean heard me play with them, folk rock, and they were folk. And so I jammed with them and Harvey Brooks. And Harvey was the bass player on Mr. Tambourine Man with Dylan, and he played with Al Cooper, all of that. And they liked me. So they were doing an album on Verve Forecast. The album was called Changes, a series of tunes that Phil Oakes wrote. And he was an activist, really influenced me. And I went to New York. I recorded with them. The album Changes. And then they brought me back from 64. They brought me back in 66, and I did the People's World album with them. And it was a fantastic time living in New York, in the Village, the prime of the Village time. It was really, you're going into clubs like the Lamp Light, and a young Bob Dylan is there playing his guitar and singing for you, and you go down the street to the Loving Spoonful where we used to practice, and the Loving Spoonful band was playing there, and that's how they got their name. And David Peel is singing in the streets. It was really something.
You've done so much. It's really incredible. But I have to tell you that the reason why I really wanted to just focus for a minute on Jim and Jean Ray, I've been blessed to know Brian Ray, who is her brother, and he is the guitar player for Paul McCartney.
Wow.
And he had told me when I met him in Kansas City that Jean Ray, the song Cinnamon Girl by Neil Young, was actually written about Jean Ray.
Wow. What a wonderful thing.
Isn't it? It's a small world.
She's the first one that gave me a yoga book.
Wow.
You know, because back in the 60s, somehow, I didn't seek it, but somehow, like, I ended up taking a lot of diet pills, and that would speed your tempo up a lot, too. And on one song that I did with them on the first album, I took too many pills, and I speeded the tempo up, so they had to get another drummer to do that one song. And I really learned my lesson. I said, I can't let that happen again. This is no good. You know, and I didn't mean to start taking pills. I was sick one day, and this very nice piano player, an elderly guy that I respected, said, here, take this. It'll make you feel better. And it was the Benny, and I got hooked for 6 years. So here I am now in 66, and Jeannie is saying, you know, the last song that you did over there, you know, it's sped up, and you shouldn't take those pills. I says, you know, you're right. And she says, okay, here's a yoga book, because her mother was into yoga. And the book was so deep that I couldn't understand it. So I got a Dell yoga book that was a simplified thing to introduce me. But then I quit the pills because I was taking from 1 to 15 a day. So I took one
caffeine pills?
No, Bennies. So I took...
What are those?
See, it's innocent because my mother was taking diet pills, which was Bennies.
Oh, okay.
And my doctor gave me Bennies so I could stay awake. So you're thinking that this is okay, but it's not. And doctors and mothers are giving it to you. And you're ignorant and you think it's okay, but it's not. So I went from 14 down to 13 the next day, 12 the next day, all the way down to 1, and then a half and a quarter and an eighth, and then I was done.
So you actually had a pretty lengthy relationship with Jim and Jean.
Yes, I was living with them at the time.
Wow.
Because they wanted me to live with them to practice every day, 8 hours a day to do the album.
Well, when Brian Ray hears about this, he may want to have a conversation with you because, you know, she's been taken to heaven, right? She's no longer with us, so
yes.
Maybe he'd like to hear some stories.
Well, you know, it's very interesting. I really loved her very much, and I love Jim very much. After they got divorced, for a short time we dated.
Wow.
And
well, all I know is that Brian Ray is one of my personal heroes. Paul McCartney's band is the tightest band on the planet. Brian Ray is such a wonderful person. He's just a really super cool guy.
Wow.
And I can't wait for him to hear this. But before we go any further, this is a personal song I like of yours. So we're going to play it. It's your music video, I Get the Blues.
Yes.
hear a mother cry. My child is gone. Too much misery, too much pain. All this terrorism is insane. Senseless misery for a life to contain. People think they got it solved with the problems outside, but the problem is solved from within. Reconnect to the spiritual light. It stills the anger and ends the fight. No more sin. No more sin. Communion in spirit light.
Muruga plays a mean slide guitar.
You're very kind. You're very kind. In one sense, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't want to. In the other sense, I do. Because I play open tuning, and I use a slide, and I do some chords, but I approach the guitar like my squeeze drum, like my nana drum. You squeeze it, and it changes pitch. So the slide is like squeezing it, and I'm using it in a textural sense. I'm using sound.
When I first saw that video, I'm like, oh, this is really cool, very cool. So it reminded me of Woodstock. And in 1969, if I'm correct, you played Woodstock. You played drums for the Winter Consort, right?
Well, I just quit the Winter Consort, and I played Woodstock with Tim Hardin. And to tell you the truth, Ralph Towner and Glenn Moore were playing with Tim Hardin with us at Woodstock, and I told them, hey, I just quit Paul Winter, and the cello player just quit Paul Winter. He's looking for some new musicians. Here's his number, call him. And then they joined the Paul Winter concert, and out of that, they became Oregon.
So cool. What haven't you done? Okay, you were in the band, you were in George Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic, right? And before you comment, George Clinton called you the shaman, the medicine man of the group. Tell us about that.
Well, I happened to get a record contract with George Clinton on his label, playing guitar like you just saw, and being a soda jerk. It was 1980, so I was doing new wave pop on the rocks music, but pop meant God and the rock meant earth, so it's God on earth music, but talking in parables. And he got $1 million contract. So he rented the Disc LTD on 9 Mile Road near Gratiot in East Point for 5 years.
Was that by the East Detroit Conservatory of Music?
Not too far. It's on 9 Mile. I would say between Groesbeck and Gratiot.
Okay. Oh, 9 Mile. Okay. All right.
9 Mile, yes. So, and it's still there, and Greg is the master engineer that, worked on Atomic Dog and everything. So, and he was there at that time. So what happened is, every time George didn't need to record himself, he gave me that extra studio time and also other groups he was producing. And it ended up that we became a family, and I'm living in the studio with the P-Funk, Bernie Warhol, Bootsy, everybody.
Bootsy Collins.
Yeah, everybody. They were all there.
I saw him at Freedom Hill.
So
years ago.
imagine these guys all in one place for 5 years. Sly Stone, everybody. And so I was already doing yoga, and I was showing George about the inner light. And when they would get sort of tense from long sessions and stuff, I would give them yoga massages and relieve their tension. And I even did that he had me do that for the Chili Peppers. And on the Chili Peppers' first album, they said, thanks to Muruga for massages. So, and sometimes when they would get a little bit too wasted, they'd call me in and I give them a massage and revive them. It's a studio, it's the P-Funk. It was interesting. Here I'm giving massages to George Clinton and Sly Stone and Bootsy.
That's hilarious.
Right? I'm saying, here I am massaging these guys, and I know 100 women that would wish that they would be here.
Oh, my gosh.
But I want to say George is a genius. And Sly is a genius. I was...
Love Sly and the Family Stone.
Okay, so now here I am playing my nada drum on a track, and Sly walks in, and he's in the next room, and it's 2 doors airtight, so you can't hear things. And Sly Stone, here I am recording, and I go, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So you see, I breathed there. Mm-hmm. And Sly said, stop. I heard the breath. I mean, he heard it through 2 closed doors that was soundproof. Right? That's how keen he is. And George and Sly, all of them, they're really geniuses. They're more spiritual than what you think. They really have that spiritual foundation. That's why it's on the one.
I listen to their music and it speaks to me. And there's no doubt in my mind that they're spiritual. So we have this thing on the screen right now. It's by Ann Arbor's Pulp.org. It's talking about your effort with the sacred boom groove. Tell us about that.
Well, when I was playing at the Chessmate years ago, I would be doing these 1 and 2 hour drum solos at times. And this very elegant African-American man who was a professor came in to hear me. And the next time he came in to hear me, he brought a record. And it was Olatunji, Drums of Passion. So I took that album and I took 2 weeks and listened and danced to it. And imbibed the African rhythms. And he became like a proxy guru to me. Years later, in Cupertino, I met some people who knew him, and I had the opportunity to meet him and play with him as an equal, which he said, we're going to play as equals, we'll share as equals. And I did the album with him and Sakuru, Circle of Drums. On Chesky Records, it's surround sound.
So this is a track off of it I'm playing right now underneath us?
No, this is a song that I wrote because of George Clinton.
Oh, okay. I thought this was part of the...
No, that's not the Sacred Boom one, but that's okay. I could explain to you what happened with Olatunji.
Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to this. So this must be the one from Pulp.org.
That's it.
All right. Sorry about that.
So as a result, I recorded with Olatunji. That song really wanted to sneak in. It's all okay. There's no mistakes. So here I am, because it might be funk to you, but it sure is gospel to me. So as a result, with Olatunji, I became brothers with Sakuru, who came to America with Ebenezer Obey and introduced African high life music to America. So I had Sakuru come to my stage chord studio in Ann Arbor from California with his friend Richie Nagin, and we recorded this in my studio. And this is with Sakuru and myself, and Alex Tarzian on other African drums and celestial string instruments, and my wife Shakti is singing on this, and Ken Kazora electronic percussion and trumpet, on the second song. This is an ancient instrument. See, it's ancient. So we're tuning to the ancient instruments, and we're preserving the consciousness of them and merging them with modern instruments because it's timeless.
Yeah.
We are the ancestors. The ancestors are us.
This track is 31 minutes long, so if we played the whole track, wouldn't have much time to talk.
Well, no, the album is 31 minutes long. There's 3 tracks.
Oh, okay. So I thought the track Might Be Funk to You was part of the pulp.org release.
Might Be Funk to You is my new release that goes along with Boogie With You and another song, The Other Side of the Mushroom.
Yeah.
The other side of the mushroom is your consciousness, your spirit. And we did also La-Di-Da, La-Di-Di, You Gotta Let It Go If You Want to Be Free. And Kenny Olson is, from Detroit, Kid Rock.
Yeah.
He was the first band with Kid Rock. He's on these cuts as well with Martha Reeves and with Shirley Hayden. Original Parlet and Ping Spells. She's from the Stevie Wonder camp and much more. And
you hang in good company.
God has graced me to sort of be like the Forrest Gump or the fly on the wall around things that happen.
So which song is Martha Reeves on?
She's on 2 songs, Boogie With You and It Might Be Funk to You. I'm on stage playing with George on the conga drums, and he comes up to my ear and whispers in it, "Hey, man, you know where the funk come from?" I said, "Well, George, yeah, I knew, but I wanted to hear his version." I says, "What, where?" And he points to the guys singing, I want to testify. He says, "It came from church."
Well, let's check it out. This is Boogie With You mix with Muruga Booker and Martha Reeves.
We wanna boogie with you to keep the earth afloat. We wanna boogie with you to keep the earth afloat. We wanna boogie with you to keep the earth afloat.
So how did this come to be with Martha Reeves? This is a really cool song.
I wrote this song maybe in the 80s. And when we had COVID, the Spirit told me to record Boogie With You again, and that I was to use Martha Reeves singing freely gospel-like funky things with Shakti doing the lyrics. And I told everybody that that's what we had to do. And everybody asked me, well, do you know Martha? I said, well, no. And for 6 months, everybody's saying, did you get a hold of Martha? And I said, no. Now, 2 days before the recording session live at the Token, I get a phone call. I'm sitting there with Mad Dabber, and I get a phone call from Dr. Bob, who owns the Psychedelic Healing Shack.
No way. Went to school with Dr. Bob.
So Dr. Bob says, you got to come and support me. I got the Temptations coming to my club. And, we had a few drinks and things, and I said, I don't know if I feel like it. My wife says, you have to go. So the Dabber and I went to Dr. Bob's. It's a 40-mile drive. And I'm sitting there at the counter having a glass of wine, and in comes Martha Reeves.
At the Healing Shack?
Yeah, and in comes Martha Reeves.
You never know who you're going to meet at the Healing Shack. You could meet what Don Was.
Well, I was supposed to be the first drummer for Was That Was, because I knew him when he was Don Fagenson. But anyways, here we are in the...
Are you guys good friends?
Yeah.
You and Don Was?
Of course.
Producer of the Rolling Stones, Was Not Was?
He had my band play Maggot Brain for the Concert of Colors in Orchestra Hall. There's a video of us.
I saw that on YouTube. That's worth checking out, people, if you want to see a good video. Concert of Colors with Don Was. What was that? That was 2 years ago?
Yeah, a few years back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So here I am in the Healing Shack. We have a circular conversation. It's like a spiral. We go from point to point. So here I am in the shack, and my friend walks in and says, hey, Martha's here. She's my friend. I says, you got to introduce me. So he introduces me, and I had my weird Statue of Liberty hat on and a very far-out, colorful outfit with these sunglasses. And she looks at me and she says, my God, I don't know if I should kiss you and hug you or get up and run. I says, well, give me a big hug. And so then I look at her and I says, for 6 months, the Spirit told me I was going to record my song that I'm going to do this Sunday at the Token live with you. And now here you are, and I'm asking you to please be on the session. She said, well, if the Holy Spirit told you that, call me tomorrow.
That's great.
So, who's in my band is David Winans of the Winans Gospel Group, and he knows Martha. And so David called me and says, look, just tell Martha that, you'll pay her a nice fee to come and play your gig and sing on your song, and she'll be there. I won't disclose how much. I couldn't afford to pay her what she's worth. She's worth $30,000 on performance, if not more. But anyways, her knowledge, and so she came that Sunday. It was 2 days before the session. I meet her, and she's on. And the Spirit told me for 6 months that this had happened. People thought I was crazy, see? But they don't trust their spirit. It's not something other. God is not outside yourself. It's not something other. It's the inner, higher consciousness, the ontological, estological, beyond time and space, beyond time. That's what that really means. It doesn't mean the end of the world. It means the end of time in meditation and prayer. You'll experience the ontological ground of your being. And that's what it's really about. It's not an external thing you're looking for. You're looking for the ground of your being. And then in that ground of the being of all existence, you can see all existence is existing in oneness within that. And that existence has come out of that ground. So, boom, I really believed in the vision. And it happened. And here she is. And then I made the video, and we then mixed it at the Disc LTD with the master Greg Riley on engineering and mastering. And then I worked on this video for a few months on my iPad Pro. You didn't see the video, but you could go to YouTube, I think. I didn't think of that. You could go to YouTube and see. But my son might not have put it out yet because we're holding off. George Clinton might overdub on it, and we're supposed to put it to press, and we're holding back to see if George is going to have time to do it. And then when we get that done, then we'll put it on YouTube. But it might be on YouTube already, and if not, just go to Muruga Booker YouTube, and there's all kinds of stuff there.
There's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, your discography is amazing. I was looking at Wiki again. I don't know if this is true, but you played a lot at the Grande Ballroom.
Yes, I played the Grande Ballroom. I played more at the East Town, but I played the Grande Ballroom with Rusty Day in Detroit, and I also played there with the Spike Drivers. And there is where they introduced me. We played opposite the Cream, so they introduced me to Ginger Baker. They wanted the drummer from Detroit to meet.
Nice.
So Ginger and I, partook in the back room and had a wonderful talk. It was
Partook?
But so that's my granny. But the East Town, I was there all the time, jamming with Ted Nugent, my own band. They would give
Ted
me...
Nugent?
Yeah. They would give me $350 in 1967, 8, and 9, and 70 to do a 20-minute drum solo.
Yeah, you had became known for your long driving drum solos, right?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
When I walked in, well, my teacher was a Russian gypsy, Misha Bishkov, with Warsaw Music Store in Hamtramck. So when Krupa would come in town, he'd teach Gene Krupa. And he played both accordion, which I studied with at the age of 6. Then at 14, when I switched to the drums, because I saw that there was cards with signs saying, accordion players go to hell, right?
I hope not.
What was your original question?
I want to see my dad again. My dad was one of the best accordion players back in the 50s in Michigan.
Okay, so
so hopefully they don't go to hell.
Yeah, so I switched the drums. But what was your original question?
I was just asking, how the long driving drum solos had come to be.
So the first gig I did was with Misha Bishkov, and it was at a Russian banquet, and they really got me drunk on vodka and good food. And then Misha made me do a drum solo. And I did a drum solo, and everybody started throwing money at me. And they really got me drunk afterwards and patted me on the back, and they loved it. And ever since then, I was doing these drum solos. So when I started playing the Chessmate, they had a very subtle, cool jazz group, frat kind of jazz, cool jazz. And I sat in with them, and they let me do a drum solo, and I got a standing ovation. So then...
That feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah. The jazz band was actually playing background music for people playing chess games, because Maury was a chess winner. He played literally 12 people blindfolded and won them all. It was at the same time. 12 people at a table. He went move, 12 times, go back to the original one. And he beat all 12, and he was blindfolded. He had a photographic memory. So he said, people like the drum solos. I'll give you $5 to come in and do one opposite the folk act. Well, it went from 5 to 25 to 50 to 100. And then it got to be 100 a drum solo, and sometimes I was making 200, 300, 400 a night. You see? And so that's where I was doing the long drum solos, and the guy came in and gave me the Olatunji album. That's why, right? And then that gave me a different perspective. Wow, the Africans do long drum solos. I'm not weird and alone by myself. So that changed my whole life.
I love stuff like that, and I love tribal things. It just, I don't know, something about it just drives a song. You did in 2021 a single, A Tree of Life. Can you tell us about that song?
The Tree of Life?
Yeah, I got it right here. Let's play it. Oh, yeah.
I love the Tree of Life. We are the Tree of Life. The whole cosmos is a tree of life with a burning bush inside. And I've applied Tree of Life many times to many songs. So I got to see which one that you are pertaining to.
Yeah, it's pulling it up here.
The spirit is the real Tree of Life.
Language all its own, and only magical beings can understand the tone.
Yes.
Right from the start, as you can see. Love is the language of the wonderful tree. The tree speaks in a magical way, so that everyone listening will feel its love today. It's not so hard as you will see.
Did you record this at your studio in Ann Arbor?
Magical
Yes, I did. There's a fantastic person in my life who's like a brother to me, Jerry Glassman. And Jerry, he's a millionaire. He helped build Ocala. But he helped people like Paul Winter, sponsored them. He helped Baba Ramdas with Seva and got people to give them money to go to India and give free operations to the blind Indians who couldn't afford it. He's this kind of guy, and he was friends of the United Nations. So he's all about world peace. And so hanging with Ramdas under a tree, Ramdas was talking, and he had a pad and pencil, and he wrote this poem, The Tree of Life. So I love his poetry so much that sometimes I sing or rap his poetry, and sometimes I have Justin James Bridges, who is also known as the Mad Dabber, and he's the one that rapped this, and this is written by Jerry Glassman, and I wrote the music.
I like it. It's very cool. What about I think it was All Night Long, the album that you put out?
Yes, it's on that album.
Trail Mix Boogie. Tell us about that song.
Trail Mix Boogie came from a dream.
This is it right here.
Yes, I had a dream that my boogie is like a trail mix picked up on the road. Because when you're on the road, you get different trail mixes. Mm-hmm. You also get different boogies. The northern boogie, the southern boogie, the eastern.
Yeah.
You're right.
Let's check it out. This is the Trail Mix Boogie. If it isn't cool, I don't know what is.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate.
We'll just keep it on and keep talking here. So in the 70s...
That's Doc Cosmo, Patrick Sarniak, playing that synthesized guitar.
Oh, let's check it out. Who's playing the saxophone?
Paul Bornhagen. He's a Latin jazz musician who also played with the Temptations. Paul Bornhagen.
So who haven't you hung with? So in January of 1970, you had performed several songs with John Lee Hooker on a TV show called The Detroit Tube Works. Tell us about that.
He's my blues guru. Well, I wrote it on one of the songs. It's sitting there, and I said, I'm sitting here in my living room with nothing to do, being bored. After you play the East Town, for 3,000 people, and it's wild as heck, and then you go to Bloom Street on Davison, and it's in your quiet neighborhood, it gets boring. But I've learned to love that boringness. But here I am, sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden the phone goes, ding, 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 and I answer it. And I said, hello? And I hear a voice on the other side say, hello, this is the Hook. I'm John Lee Hooker. And I said, well, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. He says, I'm looking for Booker. And I said, well, this is he. And he said, well, Maury White Bob said that I got the song Boom, Boom, Boom. And you're Boom, Boom Booker. I'd like you to come down and play with me. So I went down and we went boom, boom, boom. And that's how that happened.
Very cool. So then later in the year, you were often playing with Ted Nugent, who refers to you as dangerous and incredible on drums.
He's pretty dangerous himself.
Yeah. So how far back does that relationship go with Ted? Do you guys hang out a lot?
To the East Town. Oh, here. Ted was playing with me at the East Town. And we had songs in our band, but I also wrote 3 different grooves that I played. One was Goom, and then the other 2 I didn't even have a name for, or I can't remember. But one of the, it was a jam song that we did. And the riff goes, and that was my riff, and I liked that riff, and because after playing Woodstock, I came back to Detroit at the Chessmate and changed my whole routine around from a funky jazz group to a psychedelic funky jazz group. We were experimenting with all of that stuff since the 60s, didn't know it. And so here we are now jamming with Teddy Nugent. I'm playing at the East Town. I said, Teddy, jam with us, because he was playing also. So he jammed with us on that song. When we got through with the song, he comes up and looks at me in my face. He says, I love that riff. And if I just put 2 or 3 notes to it, like do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, that riff is mine. That was history. And that riff became the riff for Stranglehold.
No kidding.
He wanted me to play with John Sauter and him, to be his band. But at the time, I was playing the blues. And it was so good that I said, sorry, I can't accept the gig. I gotta stay in town.
Oh my gosh! So in '71, you performed.
So I didn't go with him, but that was because I had a band that I was playing with and almost had a record contract with. So I didn't want to goof that up. But I love Teddy, and I'd love to play with him now.
So in '71, you recorded in a studio at the record plant in New York City, right? With Allen Ginsberg and Bob Dylan.
Yes.
So who haven't you worked with?
Well,
I've just put you on the spot. But what was it like working with Bob Dylan? Some people feel that Bob Dylan is the most talented songwriter on the planet. What do you think?
well, he's one of my great influences because him and Phil Oakes and Pete Seeger, because they were using music to protest and to make a real statement. When I played with Dylan at the record plant, okay, he's a genius. Number one, a genius. He had the band mic'd up, but then he had microphones in different parts of the room that were there live for any little jam session in between recordings that would come along, and the tape never stopped running for the 8 hours.
Really?
It was a continual tape for 8 hours. So when you hear me play the tambourine on this one song, I forgot what it was from that album, I didn't have earphones. I was playing the tambourine and I was just hearing them sing at a microphone doing a little folk thing with 2-3 people.
Right.
You know, and then the next thing I'm sitting on the ground and he's playing guitar and I played my hand drums with him. And I never played a pocket so deep. That guy has the deepest pocket that you could ever imagine. It was magnificent. It made me feel like ecstatic.
When you say pocket,
Groove.
right? I have a term when I play with different drummers. I really appreciate drummers that are in the pocket. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes,
like
yes.
In the groove?
Yeah, he's right in the pocket, right in the rhythm. It didn't speed up. It didn't slow down. And it was buoyant and cooking and really opened you up to feeling great. And then I'm playing one of the songs that it called... They mentioned something about bells or what, and I had bells, and so I let them go tingle. Right in this one little spot, and Allen Ginsberg says, "Oh, hey, man, maybe don't use the bells." And Dylan goes, "Make them play the bells. We want the bells. Don't worry about it, Allen. We want bells." And so I played the bells.
Is it true that Bob Dylan never plays the song the same way twice?
None of us do.
Or
It's spontaneous. It's a rhythm. It's a chord. It's a lyric. But I'm never going to do it the same way twice. I don't want to. Then I become a cover band.
Right.
To me. It's not bad being a cover band, but that's not how for me, music is intuitive and spontaneous with some arrangement, but the arrangement should be a platform that allows you to play freely.
What? You're a lifetime P-Funk All-Star?
Yes.
How did the P-Funk All-Stars come to be?
Well, George was using, George used to tell the guys in the group, because they would see me coming around, and they'd say, "Well, he's trying to beat the funk." And George said, "He don't need to beat the funk. Muruga is already a Muruga." He's already Muruga. You understand? He ain't here to beat the funk. He's here as Muruga. Right?
What is the
and so George, what?
What is the meaning of Muruga?
Muruga is the son of Shiva who bestows light on earth.
Okay.
Okay. It's the same thing that Christ is supposed to do. See, many are the names, but the truth or light is one. So I'm sitting in the studio being produced by George, and he says, "From now on, you're a lifetime P-Funk All-Star." Because I was from Weather Report, Brubeck. I played with Dylan, all of these people, so I came as my own entity, and so he had me as one of the stars. So P-Funk All-Star is like Bootsy is a P-Funk All-Star because he comes from James Brown. You see, Bernie was his own star. They're stars in their own self, right? So, So that's what that means, that he has the P-Funk, and then he has the all-stars, different people. That's how I use Martha. That's why I say I have the Legends of Detroit playing with me.
Yeah. How would you define the Detroit sound? Being that, well, you have all the legends of Detroit, right? How would you define that Detroit sound?
It's there's a couple things going on. See, first of all, Detroit is a melting pot of people, from all around the world. African American, Irish, Italian, Polish, Serbian, Greek, every nationality is here. So Detroit has a basic folk sound that you got out of all of the halls, the Polish hall, the Ukrainian hall, the Serbian hall, all these halls. At the same time, it had an inner city blues thing going and jazz thing going. Mm-hmm. And rhythm and blues. Mm-hmm. And so then you got people like John Lee Hooker, who come to Detroit, and they start doing their music here, right? And he's a part of the Detroit sound. And then there was the garage bands and the rock and roll garage porch bands. And that's where early Detroit rock and punk came out. So Detroit has a real country, blues, rock, and funk, and it's got its own grit and its own angst. It's got its own feeling of the blues. It's a factory town. You hear, people like John Lee Hooker. They're working in the assembly line. They hear the machines going. And these are rhythms.
He's a beatboxer too.
Yeah, you see,
and a good one.
Well, see, John Lee Hooker. I used to bring a bottle of Shivers Regals every time I would play with him and offer it to him and say, "Here you are, sir. It's a pleasure to be here playing with you. Thank you for the opportunity." Because I looked at him as the person who indoctrinated me into real blues playing, not just with the young white guys that I was playing with, but I really played. And then also playing with Jimmy Reed indoctrinated me. And then playing with Junior Wells and Buddy Guy and James Cotton, that rubs off, right? That's the blues. So Detroit is a blues rock. It's got the funk. It's where funk is born.
Motown.
And it's got Motown. See, that's what I'm saying. But the soul and the blues turned into like a gospel funky rhythm and blues. Yeah. So Martha Reeves says to me, "Muruga, do you know the real meaning of Heat Wave, my song?" And what would you say that is, the meaning?
I'm not sure. Tell us.
She says, when you go to church and the Christ energy spirit wakes up in you, and you start shaking and you get a sweat and the heat wave comes on you and you know you're in the Holy Spirit.
That's just awesome. I can't tell all of you out there watching the show how honored I am to have Muruga Booker here in the studio today. We are just about out of time. I just wanted you to get a chance, Muruga, to say some final thoughts. Things coming up.
Well, I have a lot of things coming up. The most important thing with my songs, say, my shirt, see here, it says, it's got the world peace through inner peace. We have to stop fighting. Look at the Russian patriarch says to Putin, it's okay to war. No, a patriarch should never say it's okay, that he's got a moral obligation, because the church says, not unto judgment or to condemnation, but for the restoration of soul and body. So we're not supposed to condemn people. We're supposed to forgive them. But we can't do that until we have a transcendental, transpersonal, estological, ontological theosis experience, the experience of our true self beyond perception, then we'll see that we are one. And in that oneness, we don't need a book to tell us to love. We are a state of love. We don't.
Amen. Amen.
And that's the whole thing. And we need to come together, world peace through inner peace, to see that we're a family. I'm 82. I ain't trying to make it. I'm not making music because I'm going to make it. I'm making music. Well, my music got me the 1991 Hiroshima Voices for Peace Award.
Muruga, we're out of time.
I want to tell everybody, realize yourself, love yourself, see yourself in others. God bless you. May the funk be with you.
You have been watching
In
Jimmy
spirit.
G's Anomaly, the podcast. We would like to thank Detroit's own music legend, Muruga Booker, for being on the show. Music for this podcast is provided by Jimmy G's Anomaly Music Project. If you're an artist and would like to appear on the podcast, please shoot us an email at the address shown on the screen. We'll see you next time on Jimmy G's Anomaly, the podcast. Have a great day.